Hey everyone, it's Denise from caringourway.com, and it's a soul break. Every month, we take a break from what feels hard on our soul, and we take a break live. So you're always welcome to join me live on the third Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And then we post our archive within about 24 hours. We have a theme each month, and our theme this month is a soul break from regrets. And we've been doing soul breaks for about 3 years. And I looked through the library and we hadn't done regrets yet. And I thought, what? What am I waiting for? So here we are. We're going to do regrets. So let's start. So I like to have images as I ask you questions. So as we go through our soul break today, it's really an opportunity for you to receive questions to help you find an answer and to receive imagery. And my first thought is around how does it look and feel to have regrets? And as I was thinking about that, it occurred to me that it's this luggage that we carry, it's baggage. And I like this photo for a few reasons. The luggage is old, which means we've been carrying around this luggage for a long time. And I think that's what we can do with regrets. It's got some color to it, which I like. And it also seems ever present in someone's home. It's stacked against a couch. So it's always there. And I think even if we're not intentionally thinking about our regrets, they have a tendency to sit with us and on us, which is why it's nice to take a few moments to really think through what's a regret and how can I take care of it. So I'd love for you to take a moment to think about what's a regret you might have. The reason I thought about regrets was because I was thinking about the last few good days of my dad's life. And those few good days were a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday. And Friday, we'd gone out to breakfast with a cousin who lives in Scotland, and she was in town with her husband. And my dad loves to get together with them. And then Saturday, he had a good day. And then he asked me to go out to lunch with him on Sunday. And I said no. And then he fell Sunday evening, and it all went downhill. And he died just about 3 weeks later. And that no, I said to him on Sunday, oh my heavens, has kind of been baggage I've been carrying. So I talked it out with a friend actually a few weeks ago. And during those conversations with my friend about this regret, I thought, you know what? It's about flipping the script. And that's why I picked this image of flip-flops. So we can flip the script. And doesn't that look like a nice place to be? On the sand, near the ocean, with the opportunity to relax. And I think regrets can feel heavy. And if we can flip the script, we can find some lightness. It can feel like we give ourselves a break. And I like this image because it's about flipping the script to give ourselves a break. So after I had spent time with my friend, I started thinking about this last Sunday where my dad had asked me to go out for lunch and I said no. And in reality, my dad was a difficult man to get along with. And I spent a lot of time with him. And no matter how much time I spent with him, it wasn't enough. And if I had spent every day with him for hours, he still would have wanted more. And what I often felt was, and you guys will appreciate this, we're always trying to figure out the juggle. How do I spend time in caregiving? How do I spend time managing other parts of my life? And I just had gotten Sundays back because the intensity of my caregiving situation had lessened a little bit after my mom's death the previous year before my dad died. So I had just gotten my Sundays back. And so I had a choice in how I spent Sundays for the first time in a long time. And I just wanted to get caught up on work. I just wanted to have a more relaxed day. And so that's why I said no. And because it was hard to spend a lot of time with my dad. So the way I flipped the script on this was after he fell that evening, I didn't have any time until he died. And so that was my last lump of time to get organized. And thank goodness I gave myself that time because I didn't have it after he fell and started his last decline. So it wasn't about me being a bad daughter. It was me about being intentional in how I spent my time. And thank goodness I protected that time because then I had to give a ton of time to caring for him through the end of his life. So it wasn't about me shirking my responsibilities. In fact, it was about me taking care of my responsibilities because then a few hours later, I was really fully present during my dad's last weeks. So that's how we can flip the script. So for you, what does it sound like to flip your script on your regret? What's the break you can give yourself? Okay, so here's our next image, and here's our next question. How can you give yourself peace? What I find interesting about our caregiving experience is that it's an accumulation of millions of minutes, millions and millions of minutes. And yet we have a tendency to judge ourselves for one moment. And in that judgment, it's like we dismiss the millions of moments when we were present, when we were tenacious, when we were advocating, when we were caring, when we were managing, when we were providing. It's like those minutes don't matter because of 1 minute we decide to judge ourselves on. And I think, I'm not sure why that seems to be a natural inclination. And I'd love for us instead to step into all those millions of moments and receive peace. That for those millions of moments, you were courageous, you were caring, you made an impact. Your meaningful work mattered and matters. You gave quality of life in situations where it's very difficult to do that, and yet you did. So I love this image. I love it because it reminds me that fall is coming. So we're in September now, although it still feels like summer. But just this idea that seasons change, so nature continues, so can we. And we can step out from under the luggage, the baggage that we carry because of regret, and step into the sunlight. We can step out of judging ourselves for one moment and instead feeling the peace of our millions of moments. I'd like to step out from under so I can see all of it. And I love this image because it reminds us to do that. So for this image, my question to you is, how can you receive peace? And then here's our next image. And the question for this image is, what might be a different choice for you in the future? And I like the what might, because maybe you decide, I made the best choice. I took the right action. I said the correct words, given what I knew then. Going forward, you could take that information with you. And it's insights about what you tend maybe to have regrets about. So if you tend to regret if you have an impatient moment and then have maybe a crossword with someone, then you can think, okay, so I regret that. So now I'll know going forward that I might make a different choice when I have an awareness that I'm feeling impatient. If we think about regrets as really an opportunity for us to do something different in the future, then they can be helpful for us. The truth is, we don't always want to make a different decision going forward. It's your choice. I'm glad I gave myself that Sunday afternoon. However, I'm aware that I do sometimes regret if someone needed me and I decline that invitation to be with them. I also know that I can't be with everyone all the time, and that I have things I have to do for myself. And I like this image because it reminds us that there are so many choices that we can make. And we can be okay with a choice we make in that moment. So for this image, again, the question is, what might be a different choice you make in the future? Okay. We spend a little time with belief statements each soul break just to create some wisdom that can guide us. And you could think about a belief statement as it relates to, for instance, peace. If I were to think about what's the opposite of regret, I think of peace. You might think of something else, which is awesome. Whatever you think of, then you can write a belief statement about it. For instance, I could write a belief statement that sounds like, I believe I can give myself peace in any moment. I believe I can flip the script on my regrets in order to receive peace. I believe it's most important. I look at the millions of minutes in my situation, my experience, my life, and receive peace from those millions of minutes where I advocated, cared, made impactful meaning in my minutes. And then with your belief statement, you have wisdom that can guide you. So if you start that down that road of, oh my heavens, this regret is keeping me up at night, you can look at your belief statement to remind you of something different. We can get a little more specific about belief statements when we look at our belief wheel. For instance, we can create a belief statement about these categories in our wheel. You can create your own categories, for instance, for a belief statement. We could think about a belief statement as it relates to the holidays. I believe I can have a peaceful holiday season by clearly communicating my priorities. I believe I can have peace about my health right now because right now I make good decisions about my health. And then I'll just give you one other suggestion, and that could be around play. I'm thinking of that today because I did too much work. And so I, I am, I guess, hungry for play. And a belief statement about play could be, here's one that could be interesting, and I'm thinking this one out loud. I keep peace about opportunities to play because I know how hard I work. So peace is almost like permission. And again, our belief wheel is just an opportunity for you to get a little more specific about perhaps regrets you have about past holidays and to flip the script to create a belief statement about the next holiday. And then courage, I think, is such an interesting word to use because we're so courageous during our caregiving experience. And you might have one moment where you thought, oh, I was a little bit of a coward. It's just that one moment, right? And so you could think about, I have peace because I have been courageous. And that can dim that moment where we felt like, darn it, I wasn't as courageous as I wanted to be. Okay, here's my last question to you. What gift will you give yourself today? The reason I think about gifts is because I do think regrets have a tendency to take away the gift of our present moment because we spend time in the past thinking about what we can't change, and then we lose the moment right now when we can change. So, what's the gift you could give to yourself in this moment? And I also like this image because there's a couple options around gifts. It literally is a box you could give yourself. You could put something in there, like a gift of wisdom. Maybe you write one of your belief statements, put it in a little box, and that's the gift of wisdom you give yourself. And it's also something you can write to yourself, to someone else, because it reminds you that you can always send a note. And I like that because it reminds me that if I have a regret about something I said to someone, I can always send them an email. I can always send them a note. And just to close the regret that I was holding around my dad and that last Sunday afternoon, I did look to the sky yesterday and say, I am sorry I didn't spend that last Sunday afternoon with you, just to close the loop on that. And I feel good about taking that last Sunday afternoon because things got hard. And it would have been harder if I had spent that Sunday running around. Okay, that's our soul break from regret. I hope this was helpful. Thanks so much for joining me. Again, we meet live. You're welcome to join me live on the third Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And we have a theme each month that drives our soul break. I post the archives on our community, caringourway.com, so you're welcome to join us there too. Okay, thanks everybody.